Okay, this is an introduction to the section of the model on capital expenditures. Now, I recently just restructured this project finance exercises page. Okay, I think I have a spelling mistake here without. I better put that correct. But I kind of just said, well, we have the first lesson set on just building a project finance, and this is our rooftop model exercise where we're putting kind of all the videos together, or the videos together, and it's all in this file. And this file uh, is, you know, I have kind of a discussion of the key little aspects of every one of the pages, and then on top of the pages you see the kind of the key points. Now in the capital expenditure page, I think that one of the keys is this little sum product trick. I want to differentiate between the S curve and inflation, S curves and capital expenditures. Excuse me, I'm just reading this and reading it incorrectly. The capital expenditures you spend each month or whatever, and then finally how much you actually put into service, which is the basis for the depreciation. And when the depreciation starts, if you have a portfolio, you have to differentiate those two. Now I'm showing you a little sum product method to deal with the S curves, and that means the percentage of expenditures you make each period. Now the to illustrate this little trick method, I'm using our degradation example. Now, if you looked at the last video, we kind of said, okay, well, here's a problem with portfolio. In this case, portfolio of rooftops. We have expenditures occurring each year, and then we have some degradation that changes as the plant ages. Okay, that's the accumulated degradation percent. And this is the degradation by vintage by year. Now you can do this if you do the following. Number one is you have to select the capacity, and then you multiply the capacity. I need to do it for 8 periods. You select this one, and then you multiply it by this one, which has the reverse. These rates are in reverse. You notice that they're not the same order, so you have to switch the rates around backwards. Okay, and then after you do that, you kind of you can use a sum product command. Let's demonstrate that just really quickly. You put equals sum product. Okay, and then you have to go backwards. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now remember that one of the key things about the sum product is you absolutely need the same numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like a matrix kind of algebra thing. And then you press F4, and it gives you the right number. And the more impressive thing, I think if you went through some matrix algebra or something, you inverted the matrix. You could see that you'd get the same thing. Look at that, it gets the same thing. Now, if we did this in our kind of 300 period model, the question is it, one method would be to go through one of these matrices. Another method would be is the thing I used, which is to make an array function over here. Now you could do this one. It's a little messy, I think. You have to reverse you have to reverse these for 350 periods or whatever, the life of the project, I think. and then you'd have to move this out for far enough so you can kind of start here. We couldn't, you know, I think we couldn't have really, we multiplied this by the same thing here, we would have to have started way back here off the page, you know, so that there's a little bit of problem. You need these initial blanks, which is a awkward way of doing it, but it works very well for the S curve, which will be really one of the key points in this video. Okay, so this is like my preliminary video that introduces things, and then whoops, somebody's coming in the door. Sorry about that noise. This is the introduction to the video, and then video, frankly, shouldn't really admit this, but it's a little boring. But if it's meant to be, I suppose, because it's going through the whole, you know, model from A to Z. Okay, the next part of the analysis is the capital expenditures. I'm going to press Shift Control C to show kind of where they are. So we're going to have some inputs for capital expenditures. We're going to have inputs for revenues. And as part of these revenues, we're going to have some collections and working capital. Because in this project, it's entirely possible that there'll be a percentage of people who actually don't pay their bills. Okay, not a big deal. And now when we put in these costs, I'm assuming, now I just don't understand why you know, I hear that you can build a solar project for 800 and then people give me 2,000 for a rooftop. I guess they're either enormous economies of scale and the installation costs are much, much higher, what have you. But, so I put some different costs in for the different amounts. Now we're making capital expenditures that go forward for a few years. It might be the case that solar continues to fall, I hope, or it could be kind of stabilize and increase. Now that inflation in capex will be very different than our inflation in revenues, and we're going to be really careful we only use the energy charge for the revenues, and then we'll have some operation and maintenance and some different inflation in those costs too. And I think what I'm going to do one more thing. No, I won't. Up here right at the beginning, we put a construction period, and we'll have to make some S-curve assumptions. So now I switch to the consolidated model. I press Shift Control, or Control page down rather. Okay, so the first thing I did is just collected the capacity. I did this already, so the number of the date we start the installations, and then we multiply those by the capacity of the projects. Okay, I think setting this up is so important. All right, and then let's do the same thing. Let's put equal transpose and get the maybe Shift Control 1, something like that. Shift Control 4 is Australian dollars. Okay, and then we simply, I guess, you know, I don't know if we really needed this, but maybe, because eventually we'll also have a cost of construction sensitivity, and we can you know, copy this across, and this one maybe we have 130%, and this one maybe 90%. You know, there's the whole and then we'll just again take these from the scenario page. I hope I'm not being irritating by going back and forth the pages. If you press Shift Control C again, come on, don't take so long. No, it got me a little nervous there. Then we'll multiply that by the sensitivity factors again. So once you set them up, you can go Shift Control down, D, Shift Control R. Now, for the inflation rate, okay, that's the next issue. Now I put an annual inflation rate, so we better compute the annual period. Now, what I should have done, I realize, is it's okay. I should have put, years. 2017. Okay, there's no way that our project is going to affect the inflation rate in the whole world. Those are independent of our project. So just put a lookup, and you can put year of the date. Now, I should have probably put in the year, but I forgot to, so we'll do that. And then this time, unfortunately, I'm going to have to press the F4 button. It's not that much of a disaster, really. Okay. And now, so we see the changes in the inflation rates. Okay, and then what we do is to get a periodic interest rate, you cannot, and simply divide that by 12, because you could really, but it's a lot better to do it like this. Because then by the time you compound the inflation rate over a period, then it will, down here in this year, look, it's exactly right. If you didn't do that, this is just decompounding. I call it decompounding. It takes about as long as dividing it by 12 once you get used to it. So now we can put in the total cost of our capacity. Maybe this should have been Shift Control 1, and we just put of course, our cost and multiply it by the inflation index, and make sure you press the F4 key the right number of times here. And then we have our inflation. Now what we really want to know is not we could multiply these two together and get the total cost, which I told you I would do here. Okay. Whoops. Oh shoot. Alt H9. Alt H9, horrible. This is how much the total expenditures are, but up at the very beginning, we said, and I'm going to put a little period number here this time. Okay. And this time let's put the S curve in. To put the S curve in, I should have previewed that for a minute. I apologize for that. So this is, we put the periods that it's going to take us to construct these. So we're saying we're going to do the first one in 1 month and the others in 2. Let's make the third one in 3 months, okay? That's probably too long, but it'll illustrate this. So we essentially want to take 1 divided by this, and we can, why don't we do it by hand? Although we could say if this number is less than or equal to this number, then we'll take that. Otherwise, we'll take 0. Now, just press the F4 key a couple of times. This was on the top one, and this was on the side one. Okay, and then we can get our S-curves. I suppose we could even make a thing that we could have a longer S-curve. Let's go all the way to 12 months, which is, I think, absurd. Okay, and you didn't make any mistake. I made the mistake. Okay. Okay. And why didn't that still work? 1 divided by, excuse me. This is F4. Here we go. If it's not working, I'm going to turn it off. So we have the 3 S-curves, and now let's see how we can do this. Now I'm going to try something I have not done for years, and it's using the sum product. And what we do is we take the we want to go forward, and we want to multiply this by we want to take this this one. Excuse me, I've got to pause. We're going to do it. Okay, I was a little nervous, but it actually worked. I haven't done this. Somebody in my class, of course, taught me this. I didn't know how to. I wouldn't have thought how to do this. I would have thought about using the offset. So here's how it works. We put the S-curve in, and that's really going to be the big theme of this whole thing. Now, I did have to make a change. I changed this capacity to make it the beginning of the period instead of the end of the period. And then we put sum product. Okay, and then we first collect all this stuff and press F4 3 times, just so it locks in, so I can copy this down. And then you have to use the same number of things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now I press enter, and it worked, because what it did is it multiplied all these by zeros. It only multiplied the how did it do? It just took the first one times the sum product of the whole stuff. So this is only 100% now. Okay, and then I'll Shift Control R it again. Now, once I did it here, Shift Control R, Shift Control R, what it does is it takes this one and goes backwards and allocates them correctly. Look at this, 141, and it took the 70 and it went backwards. And this third one, it went backwards 1, 2, 3. So we could, you know, do that better. Now, let's just make sure I didn't do something wrong. I should, let's say we put this in, instead of 1 July, in 1 February. I think the first one will work. The question is, you know, so this one is fine. And the question is, do these 3, they sum to 546. I'm looking at the bottom. And this was 546, so I think it worked. So that's a kind of tricky way to use the sum product function. Now, I'm going to put some of my own subsidies in and get the total subsidies per KW. I think there were some subsidies in this project. Okay, so then we'll have the CapEx. Now, when we put in the revenues, okay, we'll put in, we've I've rambled enough on this one. Let me stop this video.